First, I'd like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtues of the masters, and the compassion and mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitters, temple masters, lecturers, and everyone for giving me this opportunity today to learn to speak about the classic of the way and virtue, chapter 77. Okay, so chapter 77, it's about a moderate length, average length chapter. It's the title of chapter 77 is called, it's heavenly, it's the main title is Heavenly Tao, and more specific, I guess it's called drawing a bow or pulling on a bow. Okay, so it's kind of interesting title, and he's using this is a metaphor. Okay, drawing a bow is a metaphor. All right. Okay. This is also the second chapter with the same main title. Okay. All right. The previous one is chapter 47. All right. Okay. So this is about, as I said, a little bit above average length. It's about 79, 80 words or something like that. But anyway, so it's divided into 3 sections. Okay. So the first section is sort of like the intro. The first section he's using, Lao Tzu is comparing the Tao to archery. That's why in Zen, right, they have the Zen of archery or something like that. Anyway, so okay, they use that as a metaphor. Okay, so it's basically there are two parts. Okay, that Lao Tzu is trying to compare the Tao to the archery. Okay, one is that, you know, like in archery, right? The art of archery or the Tao of archery, the Zen of archery is that, especially on the second line, second line, you have to aim at a target, right? That's the whole point of pulling on a bow, right? Using the bow and arrow, right? Okay, so you have to aim the target. It's about aiming, at a target, right? Neither too high nor low. And then the third sentence, third line, whatever, is that also it's not just aiming at a target is important, not too high, not too low, but also when you're pulling back the bowstring, the amount of pulling back, or that's the strength, amount of strength used to draw the bowstring or drawing a bow, it's, it should be just right, just right. Can't be too much or too little, right? Otherwise, you'll miss your target. Okay, all right. Then the second section, he's comparing the Tao, the heavenly Tao, or the Tao of heaven, right, with that to the Tao of the people, or the Tao of humanity. Okay, he's comparing. Okay, and which he's saying that most times, the Tao of humanity or the Tao of people does not conform, or does not, or is contrary to the Tao of heaven, because humans have a tendency to mess with the natural balance of nature and then impose their own will on it, upsetting the balance and equilibrium, okay, of nature. All right, so that's the second one. That's the analysis. And then the conclusion, third section, is basically how sages, and therefore by extension, Tao cultivators, should not have the tendency to upset the balance of nature like most people, but rather to restore the natural balance and to have balance in their own lives and have a positive influence on other people. All right? Okay. Just FYI, lines 9 and 10, I believe, are also in chapter 2. Okay? Chapter 2. All right? All right. Okay. All right. So that's the overview. So I'm giving you an overview. Let's go to the in-depth. Okay. Outline. Here it goes. Okay, so the first sentence line, the Tao of heaven, it is like drawing a bow. Okay, so he's making a connection. Okay, if you will. Okay, of the Tao of heaven. Okay, the Tao, the heavenly web, okay, and comparing it to you pulling a bow, pulling the bow, drawing a bow, aiming, taking aim, okay? So basically the Tao of heaven is cosmic, all-encompassing. It includes everything, right? The Tao, it's all-encompassing, omnipresent, it's always there, right? Always there, okay? So the Tao, what he's talking about is this heavenly Tao that is macrocosmic, okay? That means it's all-encompassing. It's omnipresent, it's everywhere and anywhere, okay? So it's always there, right? Even when we don't exist, when we're not here, okay, it doesn't matter, it's still there, okay? So this macrocosmic Tao is nevertheless reflected at the personal micro level in everyday life as well. So even though it's it's so grand, so cosmic, so vast, right? So you can say incomprehensible, all right, okay, but it's also reflected at the personal level. That's what he's using the metaphor to of the drawing of the bow, okay, all right. So now the heavenly Tao is this, right? We should know that the heavenly Tao does not mean the Tao is only in the heavens above, okay? So let's not, even though we use the term heavenly Tao, right, or Tao of heaven, it doesn't mean that the Tao is only above, it's only exists, in the heavens, okay? It exists on the earth as well, okay? So because it is omnipresent everywhere and anywhere, the term heavenly does not connote a direction or place, right? So rather it connotes something that is noble, precious, valuable, etc., the greatest degree. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, so heavenly in this case does not mean a place or a direction, right? So right, we know that in chapter 62, right? Okay, all right, okay. So at the macro level, okay, the Tao is reflected in the micro, in the humans. So also that's why humans have the Tao, okay? And if you are truly with the Tao, then humans, you can say, is the Tao too, okay? All right, so the macro is reflected in the micro. That is, the Tao is also reflect the Tao that's so grand, so vast, right? Omnipresent, right? Et cetera, is also reflected in the human, on the human level, human plane or whatever. So the cosmic, or that's the Tao, is reflected in the personal, the human as well, okay? So the extraordinary, the heavenly Tao, the noble Tao, etc., the profound Tao, the marvelous Tao, etc., is reflected in the ordinary, the mundane world, the ordinary, not so extraordinary, right? You can say the plain, the mundane world, okay? Or you can say the holy, the divine Tao is also reflected in the secular, okay, in the secular. So that's the oneness of the Tao, all right? Okay, so let's go to the second line, which is, sorry, the second part of the phrase. The first phrase is talking about what the heavenly Tao is. The second half of the line is talking about the drawing of a bow, okay? So that means how the Tao works, though, how it works, okay, is like pulling back the bowstring of a bow. That's what the Lao Tzu is using this analogy, or this metaphor analogy. So by pulling back the bowstring, that's to expanding, you're expanding the bow, okay, is to accumulate the energy to make a shot, right? Before you shoot the arrow, right? So the more the bowstrings pull back, the more energy there's to shoot, right? That's pretty obvious, okay? So now, but there's he's making an analogy here. What this accumulation of the energy, that's the drawing of the bowstring, also applies to other activities besides archery, right? So like when you prepare to jump, you need to bend your knee, right, to accumulate the energy, etc. All right, okay. Same thing, like if you prepare to run, you have to crouch, right, or something, right? All right, okay. So now, this analogy can be further generalized to all other activities. So like, for example, in order to prepare for an activity, you need to accumulate, gather, right, your energy, your strength, your resources, get information, acquire information, materials, make plans, etc. So that's the whole idea, all right? So the implication of this first line is that the grand principles of the heavenly Tao are reflected or manifested on the earthly plane, earthly level. The macrocosmic Tao is manifested at the personal level, at the personal micro level of humanity. This line tells us that the Tao is a two-way street, that the macro to the micro and the micro to the macro. So it's reflecting back and forth, okay? All right, so the big to the small and the small to the big. So right, if we understand the Tao, that's at the grand level, macro, we can also, understand the micro, okay? And then similarly, if you're really good, and this is the path of cultivation, if we understand the micro, the specifics, the micro, and we accumulate, right? Learn and then gather insight, gain insight, ultimately wisdom, then you can see the macro as well. All right. So this is etc. Right? From the small to the big to the small, etc. Macro to the micro. Okay. So from the divine to the mundane, mundane to the divine, etc. etc. Okay. All right. So this is the oneness of the Tao. Here, this is using the Tao to reflect on archery and using archery to reflect on Tao. Okay, so that's why Laozi is using this as a metaphor, analogy, metaphor. Okay, so there are 2 points, all right? Two things is this. The cosmic or grand cosmic all-encompassing Tao is also reflected at the personal micro level of everyday living. So this means, one, that it is advantageous for us to understand the big ideas about the Tao, the principles, the big principle, the truths, if you will, the principles, okay? Because it can help us with every aspect of life, okay? So that's what the benefit of learning about the grand principles of the Tao, okay? We have to know that, okay? We have to understand, okay? So because it doesn't just help us with the spiritual aspects of life, but also the pragmatic aspects of life as well, all right? Now, then the reverse is also true, okay? The reverse is also true. Let's see, where can I start? Right here, okay, right here. All right, so by observing the little things, the neat detail things, the small things in life, or, aspects of life, or mastering an aspect of life, such as, a particular skill. You could have a skill in cooking, in, I don't know, making things, painting even, skill in playing musical instrument, languages, okay, technique, art, languages, music, cooking, etc. You can also get closer to the Tao. So what this first line Laozi is saying, okay, the heavenly Tao is like drawing a bow. So you could be a skillful archer too. You could be a very skillful archer, and that also will help you to be able to learn about the Tao also, right? So about the grander things, right? The archery skill is very specific, right? Very narrow, specific thing, right? But you can say skill or whatever, but you can also, from that type, that skill, that specific skill, you can also see the Tao. Okay, so see the grand, the grand. Okay, so that's the idea. So it gives us insight. Okay, insight that where we can reflect from what we are doing at any moment and ponder or contemplate, if this is true in the here and now, then it must also be true in some aspect of the Tao, and we could apply this to other activities. So that's the whole idea of that these grand principles, that the grand principles in the first one, the first part, can be applied in all the specific narrow, you can say, areas, okay, narrow aspects, okay. All right, so that's what. So where if we work and practice diligently and master something, right? Then we can generalize and extend that to a greater concept and conclude that by practicing a skill, we can reach perfection. So this is why, it's if you look at, just about throughout history, and anyone, if they have a very, if they are able to reach the supreme level of any particular skill, they are closer to perfection. Okay, all right. So that that practice, in other words, practice makes perfect. And therefore, we can apply the same effort and diligence to master something else. Okay. So this general principle of Tao that one needs to accumulate to prepare for any activity, like pulling back the bowstring arrow of a bow to accumulate energy. That is making plans, preparations set before shooting an arrow. Okay, so that's the key point of this first line. Now let's go to the next two lines. Okay, section 1. Okay, so that which is high, lower it. That which is low, raise it. That which has excess, reduce it. That which is deficient, add or give to it. Okay, some versions use this word, some versions use this word. Some versions use, one of the other. It's the same meaning. Okay, I mean, it's basically the same meaning. Okay, all right, okay, all right. Okay, let's see. Basic meaning, okay, is this line describes basically the aiming process, right? In archery to hit a target. That's this line. That's here. Okay, that's here. All right, okay. If if the aim is too high, you lower it. If the aim is too low, you raise it. Okay, same idea. All right, okay. So obviously it's a metaphor or it's an analogy, okay, for something else. Specifically with respect to archery, in order to be accurate, one should aim low if the aim is too high, whereas one should aim high if the aim is too low, right? So this aim is always done at an angle, and how well you adjust higher or lower partly determines your accuracy in hitting the target, right? Now, that is an analogy. This aiming in archery to hit a target is a metaphor, analogy for achieving a goal in life. Neither too high, neither too low. Means to be moderate in setting realistic, achievable goals that would be significant accomplishments. Okay, so that's what the metaphor for the aiming the bow, okay, is for. Is that, we have to set a target. There are going to be goals, okay? We have to set a goal in life. We have a lot of goals. There are different goals, okay? There's the high goal, low goal. There's the ultimate goal, the intermediate goal, the short-term goal, long-term goal, et cetera, all right? Okay, all right, so now let's look at the second line, which is that which has excess, reduce it. That which is deficient, add or give to it. Okay, so where is it? Right here. Okay, it's this line describes the amount of strength, neither excess nor deficient, to hit a target in archery. Okay, so specifically with respect to archery, in order to reach the target, that's pulling back too much. Okay, pulling back too much, that's using excess strength, will overshoot the target, right? Yeah, too much energy, right? Too much strength. While pulling back too little, that's not enough strength, will undershoot the target. Either way, you'll miss the target. All right. Okay. So additional meaning is that one needs to decrease pulling back the bowstring, that's reduce the strength, to not overshoot the target. Whereas one needs to increase pulling back the bowstring or add more strength to not undershoot the target, right? This is all pretty obvious, right? We're not, but this is all analogy, and that is this, okay? So the amount of drawing the bowstring is a metaphor, analogy for having the appropriate amount of effort, not too strong or excess, right? That's the excess, and not too weak, that's deficient. Means to be moderate in exerting the proper amount of effort without overdoing or underdoing anything. So the art of archery is a metaphor for the Tao of life. So without a goal, that's the target of the arrow, right? There's no purpose in life. So the bow and arrow have no purpose, right? So if there is no target, no bullseye, or no whatever, no target, then the bow and arrow has no purpose, right? Well, what's the point, right, of having a bow and arrow? Similarly, in life, in real life, right, in our everyday life, if there's no goal, no purpose in life, then why are we living? Why are we here, right? Why are we here, right? So that's the thing. Now, one answer you say, oh yeah, we're here because there's karma, but there's a goal to the karma. to karma, to karmic life, if you will, or to, it's because under the mechanism of karma, right? We come into being, we come into existence in order to what? Either pay back the creditors that we owe, right? Due to previous life, right? Or to collect, right? From whatever we planted from previous life, right? So that's the whole idea, okay? So, but we still have goals. We still need to have goals, okay? Especially in order to transcend samsara, okay? Now, there's a story, I think they use this in Zen or whatever. There's a story of the famous archer Wang, Sifu Wang. He's known as the divine arrow of 100 paces, okay? And the sage, okay? 百步神剑. I mean, I think that's a famous, okay, literally it just means 100 paces divine arrow. That means that this archer in ancient China was very well known throughout ancient China, because anything within 100 paces, he can hit a bullseye. Okay, 100 paces or less, he can hit the bullseye with his arrow. So that's how he's found. Okay, the story goes like this. It's going to take about 7-8 minutes. Okay, the story goes something like this. Okay, once upon a time in ancient China, there was a sage and his disciples that are cultivating in some mountainous or remote monastery, and the sage is very well known, and he practiced. He's very good and very knowledgeable in the Tao, and also he practices the Tao too, in terms of like some martial arts, like using Tai Chi, etc., etc. Okay. So, and in order to help his disciples, learn more about the Tao, or understand the Tao in terms of everyday living, one day the sage said to his disciples, I'm going to invite it's his friend, okay? It's the sage's friend, Sifu Wang, to come and learn the Tao with us, so we can also learn about what he knows about archery and how it's applied in our study or cultivation of the Tao. So all his disciples are very excited, because they've all heard of this Sifu Wang, this master archer Wang, okay, who's very renowned throughout the kingdom. So they were very eager to have Sifu Wang to come and learn the Tao and discuss the Tao with them, and so they could learn from each other, from different perspectives, okay, because he's such a well-known. Then the master also, the sage, wanting to add more. Sorry, I missed part of the story already. Sorry. Okay, so the master, the sage, was one day discussing prior to the announcement of him inviting this archer, that they were discussing about what we need to what we plan to study the next either the next week or the next coming month, etc., and how do we need to progress in our cultivation. So he would oftentimes ask his disciples, what are you planning to learn next, to learn next, or to understand more next. So some disciples would say, they want to learn about certain breathing techniques or meditation techniques, so that they can better grasp the concept, the concept of the Tao, emptiness, or stuff like that. Or and other disciples would say, I want to learn more about a particular sutra, so that they can have a better understanding, of the teachings of the Tao, of Buddha, etc. Okay, so the sage was very, very glad that all these disciples have set these short-term goals, right, for learning about the Tao. But then one disciple asked, Master, all these goals seem to be, that you seem to encourage or to accept a welcome, maybe nice, but isn't that kind of contrary to the Tao? Because isn't the Tao supposed to be very free-flowing, not rigid, not artificial, not contrived, right? So, shouldn't we just not have any goals? Because that seems so artificial, so fixed, so rigid, right? Didn't we learn from the grand principles, right? He's talking about the grand principles, saying, the Tao should be, it should be flowing, naturally, it should be natural. Shouldn't we just like follow nature? That's the disciples' understanding of nature, that, just like the Tao, it's flows of nature. So why is there a need to even have goals? Okay, so then the master replies, that's a good question, but, I won't respond to your question as of yet, but I'll invite my friend Sifu Wang, the famous archer, to come and cultivate with us. All right, first, and then he also announced, that to make it more interesting, he said when Sifu Wang comes to visit, to stay with us at our monastery, I'm going to have a contest with him in terms of I'll have a archery contest with him. And I plan to win. I'm going to beat him. So all the disciples are like, huh? Are you kidding? We know that you can you're a lifelong practitioner of Tai Chi and some of the martial art forms, but we know that you're not an archer, a skillful archer anyway, and we know that the reputation of Sifu Wang is so famous that anything within 100 paces. Or 100 yards, I guess, 100 paces, maybe not 100 yards, but anyway, 100 paces. He always hits the bullseye. He's won so many contests. It's we can't even name. So there's no way you can beat him. But and so there were all the disciples were very skeptical of their master claim or pronouncement that he's going to win. So they all asked the master, well, how do you plan to win? So the master replied, yes, I have a plan. Do you know what they are? I have some technique. That's what he said. I have a certain secret technique to win, to beat Master Wang. And so some disciples say, oh, secret technique. So the master asked his disciple, do you know what it is? Okay, what's my secret technique? And so the one disciple said, oh, master, I've read that that before when you are aiming at a target in archery, as you're breathing, some breathing technique, how you are breathing in and exhaling, breathing in, inhaling and exhaling, and that the best the technique is that you release the arrow in between the breaths, in between your inhalation and exhalation, between, in and out, okay, in between. And that's way your aim will be more true, okay? And so you hit the target. And the masters responded, that's a good idea, but that's not my technique. And so another disciple mentioned, oh, master, I heard that, if you can quiet your mind, not think of anything, just quiet your mind, okay, so that you have no thoughts, then your aim will be very true, and then you can hit your target. And the sage responded, the master responded, that's a very good answer, but that's not that's not my technique. so all the disciples wondering, what kind of technique do you have, master? So the master responded, my technique is really very simple. Okay, I plan to blindfold Sifu Wang, okay, spin him around, make him feel dizzy, and then hide the target behind a big tree so he can't see it. And then he won't be able to hit the target. Then all the disciples started laughing, burst out laughing, saying, "Come on, master, you're joking. This is a joke, okay? You're using trickery, trickery, right? You're using trickery to win. That's not fair. It's not a right contest. It's not that." The master said. The master continued. Even little kids who are not, skillful archers, right, in the art of archery, they know that if the archer cannot see a target, they can't hit it, right? They can't hit it. So the point is this, that what the master's the master's technique is saying is that just as if there's no target, for the bow and arrow, then that means there's no purpose to the bow and arrow, right? That the bow and arrow has no purpose if there's no target, right? There's no target. Similarly, he's saying is that just as in life, if there's no goal in life, no goals at all in life, okay, no direction at all in life, then what is the purpose of life? Okay, so my question is, did you think that the master answered that third disciple's question about having goals in life, or having goals at all in life, right? So that's the whole idea, okay, is that the story behind the story is that that we need to have, just as you have a bow and arrow, the purpose of a bow and arrow is to hit a target, right? Otherwise, why have a bow and arrow, right? It's not a musical instrument, right? You can't cook with it, right? Okay, whatever. All right. So similarly, the very fact that we exist in this material world, that we have life, means that there is a purpose or a goal. Now, there could be a lot of different goals, right? A lot of, some people have a goal that they want to, get a good education. They want to make a lot of money, or they want to be famous, or they want to be, powerful, or, have status, or they want to have a family, they want, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, those are all goals, right? Now, there's like I said, low goals and high goals, material goals and spiritual goals, et cetera, right? So, but the whole point is, whatever goals you have to apply the principles of the Tao. That's the key. You need both. You need to have goals, but you cannot just have goals without any principles of the Tao. Okay. Similarly, you may have principles of Tao, but you also have to have a goal. Okay. So that's what you need. All right. Okay. So that's the whole story. Okay. So I'm running out of time, but okay. All right. So this description, okay, this is where I want to go. Okay, so this description of the aiming and drawing process is a metaphor for goals in life and for moderation. In this case, aiming neither too high nor too low, drawing the bowstring neither too much nor too little. So okay, hold on. I don't know why is that. Okay, so the key is that the aiming process, okay, in archery, it's always done at an angle, right? At an angle, right? It's not a straight line, right? It is neither high nor low, not a straight line, but an arc. So how well you adjust your aim, higher or lower, partly determines your accuracy, right? That will help. Then the angle of the aim is not the complete story, though. It's not the only factor, right? What one cannot observe as easily is the appropriate strength that goes into drawing back the bowstring. How much power to use, okay? So here, the aiming process in archery for hitting a target is a metaphor for goals in life and having moderation in achieving these goals. So the best way to achieve one's goals in life is by using moderation, not to aim too high or too low, but just the right angle, not too much or too little, but just the right amount of effort. So one needs to have balance. Be careful not to overdo and not to underdo. Neither too much nor too little. Both extremes are bad. So let's see some metaphors of archery. Okay, here, the archery metaphor. So first one, we have highlights the goal, highlights the goals that we should have. Okay. So we all have certain targets in life. So this is how life is. That's the real life. That's how life works. Okay. So that's the story. Okay. Now have of the master one. Okay. So having goals is neither good or bad in itself. In itself. Okay. It's like it's neutral. It can be neutral, but it is what and how you make of your goals. So people say, oh, I have goals. I want to kill people. Well, that's not bad. That's not good. That's a bad goal. Then that's okay. So just having a goal is okay, but it's what you do with that goal. So if you want to kill people, then that's not good, right? Obviously. If you want to help people, then that's good, right? Then that's good. That's part. Okay. So being a skillful archer means hitting the target you want. Could be material or spiritual goals, which may be happiness or peace of mind, right? Okay. So that's okay. That's okay. You could have material goals. The question is how you get it, how you do it, and what's its impact. All right. So, all right. Next is the Tao of moderation. Okay. So not too high, not too low. Set realistic, achievable goals that would be significant accomplishments. So if you aim too high, having unrealistic goals that are out of reach beyond your ability to achieve. I mean, I see a lot of, especially this is very true for idealistic people who are very idealistic, and I'm not saying all the case, but a lot of times, generally, they tend to be very intellectual people, very smart, very, a lot of times book smart, a lot of times book smart. They have a lot of knowledge, book knowledge, and they tend to be very idealistic. They read a lot on philosophy and whatever, good stuff. I mean, but sometimes the goals are too unrealistic. Okay, so we have to be mindful of that. Okay, now that could be a manifestation of arrogance. Okay, that's possible in having an unrealistic views of oneself. That's also possible. Now that's one explanation. Okay, so that's this Chinese idiom. Okay, okay, your eyes are high, but your soul means either your handiwork or your efforts are low. Okay, all right. Okay, so or there's the other opposite, the other extreme, which is what? Aiming too low, having no real achievement or progress. Now, and what does that mean? That means, okay, so not. Some people were saying, oh, I'm not that smart. I'm not that able, capable. I don't have that many good skills, or I'm not very skillful in any particular, things. I don't have any good techniques. Okay. And so, if you use that to rationalize, setting low goals or very, very low bar, okay, then that means you are really what? Hurting yourself in the long run. Because why? Because you're not fulfilling your true potential. Okay, so that's the key. I mean, now there are many reasons for that. You could be lazy or unwilling to learn or willing to change your habits or whatever. Okay, whatever. There are a lot of reasons for that. Okay, but the point is this: ultimately, you won't achieve or fulfill your potential. Right? That's aiming too low. Okay. Now, not too strong, not too weak. Exert the right amount of effort without overdoing anything. So that's the key: moderation. Okay. So drawing back the bowstring, that's to gather the energy or power, gather resources, gather information, materials, etc., etc. So that's getting ready to put your plan into action, making all the necessary preparations to execute plan. So that's the drawing back. Okay. Now, but when you're doing that, when you're doing this, okay, that you don't want to pull too much or too little, right? So that means when you're gathering, your resources, information, plans, making plans, preparations, etc. You don't want to do too much. Okay, that means it's overkill. You overplan, you overprepare, right? You etc. Or you do to do too little planning. Okay, too little power resources, not enough information. Okay, not enough planning. Okay, so that means too little means half-hearted or insufficient effort. So that's why we have to do just right. So that's the whole key to life. Okay, and what Lao Tzu wants to use this archery, the art of archery, to relate or to as a metaphor, as an analogy to our life, is that we have to have goals. That's the aiming part, right? and then how much to draw the bowstring, to hit the target, okay, means you have to have just the right amount. So it's the moderation. All right. Okay. So that's the whole point. All right. Let's go back. I'm sorry, I'm running out time. I'm gonna need probably close to 90 minutes on this. Sorry about that. But anyway. Okay. All right. So let's go to section 2. All right. Section 2. So the Tao of Heaven reduces those with excess and adds to the deficient. Okay. So what does that mean? So it means basically that the first half is that generalizing from the archery metaphor, the Tao is an overall balancing mechanism. It's like the Tao is somehow has a tendency to want to do things, to balance things out. Okay, that's nature. Okay, so in nature, so we can use that in nature, or especially in the animal kingdom, anything that is too much will be naturally reduced. So for example, there's too much prey, then predators will hunt and reduce them, right? So there will be more predators to hunt and predator. Too many predators means less prey will survive as the number of prey becomes insufficient, right, to sustain the number of predators. So everything in nature in the long run trends to an equilibrium. That's why there's some kind of equilibrium, okay? All right? So that's why when we humans, we think we're smart, right? We either overfish or I don't know, whatever, we take too much fish, or we take too many of the prey animals, then that's upsetting the balance, okay, of nature. And then that will lead to consequences, right? Okay, so all right. So now some examples of when there's too much, it gets reduced. So for example, if we pour too much water into a container, it'll spill off, right? The water will it's not going to be squeezed into a container, right? It don't kind of hold some amount, so it's going to spill. If we have too much heat, gradually it'll cool, just like in the summer, right? It gets heat, but then it's not going to last forever. It's going to gradually cool off, okay? The heat has to dissipate somehow. But if they have too much prey, then there will be active predators or increased number of predators to thin the herd, to reduce the herd. If we have excess growth in the desert, in the forest, lightning will strike, igniting forest fires to keep the growth in check. So these are all natural events, okay? All right, so further understanding is that just as it's nature, so it is among humans. We also need to have the balancing mechanism for ourselves. Whereas whenever we have too much of something, we should give to those who do not have enough. Okay, so then the last half of the line is adds to the deficient, right? Okay, what does that mean? That means that the flip side of reducing the excess that's adds to the deficient is the exact same balancing mechanism. It's the other way, right? One is when there's too much, it must be reduced, right? Okay, and then adds to the deficient. That's what something that's lacking will be what? Added, okay? So in nature, same thing in nature, okay? Anything that is too few will be naturally increased. With too few prey, less predators will survive. So the number of prey will naturally increase. With fewer predators, more prey will increase. So the number of predators will then increase also. This is a cycle that repeats over and over, where nature will tend to balance itself in the long run. Okay, so some examples, okay? Extended drought, insufficient water. It'll eventually be relieved by rainfall. You're not going to have a drought forever, right? Forever. Not, in some places maybe, yeah, okay, but those are not the average. If you look at the average, right, the global average, same thing, colder temperature. It's not enough warmth, but then gradually it'll transition to a warmer season, such as from winter to now spring, right? Okay, so depleted region, insufficient food, animals will migrate to greener pastures to allow time for the depleted region to recover. Same idea, okay? Now, further understand is just as it's in nature, so it is among humans. We also need to have the balancing mechanism for ourselves. Whenever those have too little of something, we should add to those who do not have enough, all right? All right, so just as is nature, humans must also follow the balancing mechanism. Whenever there is too much of anything, we should try to reduce it. Right? Too much of anything, we should try to reduce it. Whenever there is too little of anything, we should try to add more to reach a state of equilibrium. Now, one specific example of whenever there's too little of anything is what? We have charity, right? That's why there's charity, right? That is the whole point of charity is what? Those who have enough or excess, right? Surplus, excess, give to those who lack, right? Who don't have enough, right? Enough food, enough clothes, whatever, okay? Enough resources, right? That's called charity, right? Too, right? Okay, so that one example. That's why it's this idea of charity is one of the 6 paramitas in Buddhism, because it is trying to reach a state of equilibrium of this Tao, which is that those who have too much should therefore give to those who don't have enough, right? That's a balancing mechanism, right? Now, Lao Tzu didn't use the word charity, but he used it. Okay, so the key is this, is that the basic idea is that in nature, whenever there's too much of anything, it will naturally be reduced. Likewise, humans should follow this balancing mechanism of nature and apply it in their lives. Whenever we have too much of something, we should give to those who have less. Whenever there are those who are insufficient, we should make up for that deficiency. Now, Bible has similar story. Similar. This is just one. Okay. There are many quotes, many passages, but the Bible, okay, like Apostle Paul's exhortation to the Christians of Corinth. This is from Corinthians. That's why it's called Corinth, right? That's the Corinth. That's in Greece, I think, modern day Greece. Anyway, but so but this is the King James version. There are different versions, translation, but I just click King James because it's tradition. But by an equality that now at this time your abundance may be a supply for their want, and that their abundance also may be a supply for your want, that there may be equality. As it is written, he that hath gathered much had nothing over, and he that had gathered little had no lack. Okay, so this is basically, you can say, call it charity. You can use the word for charity. This is like charity. Okay, there's a specific reason that Paul was saying. He was writing to the Christians community, Christian, the congregation, to try to, because they're, I would say they were wealthy, but they had a lot of surplus, a lot of excess, to give some of their surplus access to the Christian congregation in Jerusalem. I think that was the particular aspect. But it highlights that general principle. Okay, all right. So there are very similarities there. Okay, so let's go to the last section. So the Tao of this is the second half of section 2. So the Tao of people is not so. It reduces the deficient in order to offer to those with excess. So that's the total opposite. All right. So what it means is that basically is that humans develop their civilization. We stray further away from how nature, the nature's balancing mechanism works. We stray further away. Okay. So in many ways, the way of humanity has become contrary to the Tao of Heaven. Yeah, that's sad. Okay, and here it is that where the Tao reduces the excessive, humans tend to add to that which is already too much. Right? We tend to overdo it. See, that's a bad tendency. Where the Tao adds to the insufficient, humans tend to reduce them even more. So many people in the way of humanity are inverted. So, okay, so for example, here's an example, some examples, okay? Some examples in the way of humanity where people reduce the deficient, that's it. So imagine a society where the people get poor, where the poor get poorer, where the ruling class is taking even more from the people to increase their wealth, right? We see that today. Even the most advanced economies, the biggest economies, not just small, but all economies of all sizes, the advanced or the non-advanced, the developed, the not developed or not so developed. It's true. The rich or the ruling class, the elites, they get richer, whereas the poor get poorer. That's a fact today. That's an undeniable statistical fact. Okay. All right. Okay. So and generally also, and it's true throughout history anyway. Okay. With those with the least ability to speak up, okay, or to represent it, et cetera, get the short end of the stick and therefore decrease ability to get out of their predicament. That's true. Okay, that's true. The least advantaged people, okay, they always get the short end of the stick, right? And therefore, that's a vicious cycle, right? Okay. The poor, now, we can also, so there's another one. There's another spin to it, to the poor, is that the poor may also receive a negative kind of assistance that makes them dependent on it and become enslaved by it, where they become addicted to the assistance. Okay, so that's now, are we saying that charity is bad? No. Or are we saying that, certain social programs, the safety net, are bad? No. But we cannot make the poor or totally dependent on these type of, you can say, safety nets, safety nets, such, because then that is going to lead to long-term dependency, right? The best aid is to train or educate the poor or the disadvantaged or those people who lack skills, to train them with new skills, or et cetera, right? To help them develop skills that then they can rely on those skills to get themselves to become less poor. Okay, so that's the idea. All right. So this dependency is in contrast to a positive assistance. Okay, that's what I'm talking about, where people are taught how to fish instead of just receiving the fish. Right. So this is the type of assistance that conforms to the Tao. This is really the Tao-like assistance, which is to what? To teach people how to fish rather than to give them fish. Now, but there's two parts. I mean, two parts, two halves, if you will. The first half is, let's say people are starving. You can't just say, okay, hey, okay, you guys are starving, but I'll teach you a skill. It may take you a week, a month, I don't know, half a year to learn the skill, so that then you can, earn a living and no longer become poor, et cetera, et cetera. But meanwhile, they have to eat, right? So you still have to give them fish in the short term, right? So the key is, most of today's assistance, okay, should be short term, or we can say sunset, should have sunset clause. That means that, we only give you this type of assistance as long as you are learning new skills to, in order to help you get, to help you through this difficult period, right? But it should be short term or temporary. It should not be permanent, right? This type of assistance. The key is that, all right? That's the whole idea, all right? So that's what public policy principles are, or they learn that in school of public policy or social policy. Anyway, all right, okay. So the basic meaning is this: the poor and the powerless are generally at the mercy of the wealthy and powerful. So this phrase refers to the exploitation of the poor and powerless. Okay, that's the Tao of people generally. This concept not only applies to the wealthy and powerful, but also to everyone. People tend to gang up on misfits, bully the outcasts, or pick on the helpless, etc. Right? I mean, we see that all the time, right? Okay. So meanwhile, what about those people who already are the haves? People who already have the excess, okay, excess wealth, fortune, fame, power, etc. Okay. So those who have the fame, power, fortune, and power are being praised and looked up to as role models, right? Yeah, right. We don't look at the poor as role models, right? Okay, we look to the famous, to the rich, to the powerful. Okay, so just like the popular kids in school getting friendship, privileges, and all the attention, right? So generally, the way of humanity is the tendency to jump on the bandwagon. That's the problem. We have this tendency to jump on the bandwagon. Oh, this is especially true in sports. Especially true in sports, right? When we have this, let's see, like a very successful team, very successful football team, baseball team, whatever, hockey team, whatever, basketball team. People tend to attract a lot of what we call fair weather fans. Fair weather fans. As long as they're winning, championships, whatever, they're going to attract these type of fans. Okay, people have that tendency, right? Okay, all right. So on the flip side, the richer get richer. The powerful have more voice to influence or instigate change for their benefit. So they make everything more to their liking, right? We have lobbyists, right? We have, campaign contributions from these, organizations, from the wealthy, etc., right? And you tell me that that's not going to affect, that gives them more influence over these politicians, right? Okay, so all right, okay. So the implication is this: the way of humanity is contrary to the Tao of Heaven because, okay, not that because the way of humanity is bad. No. Okay. Now, Confucius, that's why he concentrated on the way of humanity to match, to be in accord with the Tao of Heaven. That's why we have to study the 4 books, Confucius. I mean, Buddha talks about, but Buddha talks more about the high level stuff, okay? Whereas Confucius deals with the way of humanity, okay? So that's why it's important to read the 4 books, okay? To understand the 4 books, especially the Analects, the 4. I mean, you start with the Analects because it's more broad. It's more, it's more, we say practical, okay, as opposed to the Great Learning, which is a little bit, more, abstract. Yeah, same thing with the Doctrine of Me, So that's why, what is Confucius' greatest contribution? He turned the Tao, the way of humanity, to be in accord to the Tao of Heaven. That's his greatest contribution. Okay, that's what it's okay. Now, so because, and why would Confucius do that? Because the way of humanity tends to be contrary to that, because there's a tendency for people to add to those who already have access and take it. Okay, I mean, so that's why. All right, okay. So key is, from the perspective of the Tao, the way of humanity is the opposite of the Tao of Heaven. There are far too few who follow the Tao of Heaven. That's to reduce those with excess and add to those who are lacking. And far too many who follow the way of people, or the Tao of people, humanity, that is to reduce the lacking and give to those with excess. The way of people tends to be full of unnecessary waste and ego-inflating displays. Those are display with that. Okay, so that's why. All right, so that's why we have to read the 4 books, or learn Confucius' teachings, because he connected. He is making the way of humanity conform to the way of the heavenly way, the Tao of Heaven. All right. Okay. So, all right. So at the 3rd section. So who can have excess and offer it to the world? Only those who have the Tao. All right. Okay. So the basic meaning is that the first line is that who can offer their excess to the world? Okay. And who can give excess? To give the excess to those who have less is not what many people do. Okay, most people give more attention, more energy, resources to those who already have excess. So they take from the poor or needy in order to give to the rich. So that's not what we want. Okay, so only another common way of people is hoarding, right? The extra resources. You may not be rich, wealthy, whatever, powerful, but sometimes a lot of people hoard. They hoard. So the extra resources they have accumulated, they'll grasp onto and never let go. So this is true even if they have more than they can ever use. It doesn't matter. They feel like they never have enough, so they keep adding to what is already a lot. That's their private stash. So that's the common tendency, right? We tend to be attached or have a feeling of what? Dissatisfaction or non-contentment. That's a better term, non-contentment. Okay, so that's what get to chapter 46 here is that. Why people hoard? Why do people hoard? They think hoarding will help them feel secure because they fear they can never have enough. In reality, they suffer from anxieties and worries, which are all symptoms of attachment. That's similar to the lack of a contentment of people who have excess, right? Chapter 46, right? So that's important, okay? All right, so the second line is this, is that who can be different from those who jump on bandwagons that's accumulating more and more excess? And are hoarders only those who have the Tao, quote unquote. Okay, that's have the Tao. Okay, so that's that mean those who have the Tao, quote unquote, means the cultivators who understand and practice the Tao in everyday life. Okay, so only those who understand and practice the Tao in everyday life can live in everyday living can give their excess to others. That's what Lao Tzu was saying. Okay, so the difference is that those who quote have, unquote, the Tao are able to let go of their attachments So when they have more than they need, they share the excess with others. Okay, they're not attached to hoarding, to accumulating for accumulating's sake, etc. Okay. Okay, so the implication is this. Those who understand and practice the Tao in everyday living are able to let go of attachments and realizes the consequence of this discontentment due to greed. So they will not hoard. They are the ones who are able to give their excess, not what they do not want, to others. The key is to give excess, not what they don't want, because sometimes you're giving your junk to others. Okay, so that's not good. All right, so that's not good either. All right, so that's okay. Okay, here. Only those who are not attached to their egos and material objects are those who know, understand, and practice the Tao. That's to have the Tao. Okay, so they can offer their excess. That's what they do not need. Okay, and not what they do not want. That's the trash. Okay, or God, to others. Also note that it would not be necessarily wise to share when one does not have enough. Right? That when one is deficient or lacking in the first place, because this can damage your ability to continue giving. So to give others is still all about moderation, not too much giving, not too little. That's also important. Okay. So yes, it is good if you have excess, it's good to give that excess that you don't need to others. But if you do not have enough yourself, if you are lacking, then it's not a good idea to give what you have, what you already don't have enough to others. Make sense? So that's the moderation. So when you give, or charity, we say charity in the more specific, but in general, when you give anything, you can't give too much or too little. Now, this is not just material; it implies also intangible stuff like understanding, listening, time. We can say time. Time is intangible, right? Time, all right? Okay, so also that emotion, emotional support, we say emotional giving, we give moral support, right? So you need that, all right? So it applies. Okay, so let's go to summary part 2. Okay, so number 1, observe what people do and consider the opposite. So be a contrarian. So when people jump on a particular bandwagon, consider rooting for the underdog. This just break. We tend to have the habit, okay, of jumping into the bandwagon. Okay, so try to break that habit. Okay, so that's the key. All right. So the idea is that, and then practice the Tao of giving. What's the Tao of giving? Is it charity? Well, yes. Charity in the sense. In certain senses, okay, not just plain outright charity, period. Okay, no, it has to be qualified. Okay, so what is the qualification? Is that the qualification is give what you do not need, that's your excess, instead of what you do not want, your trash. Okay, so a lot of times we end up giving our trash. Okay, that things that we don't want. Yeah, I don't want this. I got too much junk. I have too much clothes, too much old clothes. I can give it away. Okay. It's not bad, but at least you're giving something, right? That's something's better than nothing, right? You can say that, right? Okay. But we want to break that habit. The key, once again, it's like a habit, just like jumping on a bandwagon. Okay. It's a habit because this will help us align our thoughts closer to the Tao, okay, closer to the Tao principle, or we can say non-conditional, wu wei. See, the key is that a lot of times we give because we don't want these stuff. That's junk, right? Okay, that's kind of waste. Just throw in the trash. Have the garbage collectors pick it up, or get buried in a landfill, right? It's kind of wasteful. So yeah, so I'll give it to charity, right? Now, yes, it's better than putting into a landfill. I agree. Yeah, it's better than that because at least now somebody gets to make use of whatever you do not want. Okay, but that's at a very bare minimum level of charity, and that's still not completely in alignment with the Tao. Okay. So the key is, that's why we want to practice, cultivate, nurture that mindset of not giving what you do not want, but rather give what you do not need, or your excess. Oh, I have too much this. I have too much, whatever, food, too much clothes, too much shoes, whatever. Okay. I don't need it. I don't need it. There's no need. I'd rather, give it to those people who don't have it. Okay. So that's the better one. Okay. And then also the other condition or the other caveat is that the Tao giving, the charity part, is that you strike the right balance. Do not give too much or too little, just like in archery. All right. Okay. So let me take enough time here. Okay. So here's the last sentence. Okay. Last sentence, last phrase. Okay. Last sentence. Therefore, sages act, but without conceit, achieve merit, or they say achieve, have achievements, but without claiming credit. They, that's the sages, do not wish to display their virtue. All right. Okay. So, let's see. This word, 是, okay, in modern times, in modern meaning, it means to rely on, to depend on. Now, it also means arrogance, okay, or pride. You can say pride. Ancient use, it's not to rely. It just means arrogance, pride, vanity. All right. Okay. So, all right. So the basic phrase is that sages practice the Tao because it's the way, the natural way, and therefore the best way. So they act without arrogance, without any display of ego. Okay. Sages are like that. Okay. That's, you can say that. Now, what's another definition for sages, right? At the higher level, it's the Buddha nature, right? The Buddha nature practice Tao because it's at one with the Tao, right? That's chapter 72, 72, right? Chapter 72. We talked about that. That's without fault. Sages are without fault. That's the Buddha nature, has no fault. Why? Because they naturally is the Tao, or with the Tao, or whatever, or manifest the Tao. It's that. Okay, that's the oneness. Okay, so, and they have no arrogance, right? Sages, I mean, the Buddha nature has no arrogance because it has no ego, right? No ego. All right. Okay. So sages do so without thinking they are special or superior compared to others, because this is sages have no ego. All right. So sages give goodness without having any conditions, because that is the natural thing to do. That's really being truly at one with nature, or being with the way, the natural way. That's how the Tao naturally is. All right. Okay. So sages are only following nature in acting as a balancing mechanism. That's to reduce the excess and add to the. I should say, I would say following nature. What I mean is that, yes, nature acts like that, but also sages naturally follow that way, follow the way of the balancing mechanism. All right. Okay. So the second phrase is sages do not claim credit for their achievements. Okay. Sages do not dwell on the achievements on the accomplishments they have achieved. Sages are like the river. The water nourishes the living things it encounters and moves on. Now, the natural of Tao means what? There's no judgment on who should receive the benefit, who is or is not deserving, quote unquote. Just as the rain falls equally on the good and the bad, the sun shines on everyone without discrimination, right? So that's the key, all right? So that's why, that this is the general principle, how it's specifically applied in giving. That's why we don't want to give not what we don't want, because then that's very, very specific, right? That's like, this is trash. This is junk. I don't need it. I don't want it. So let me give it away. See, so that's, then that has you have like a condition, okay, a conditional view, okay. You say, hey, it's natural. I just give it because I don't need it. There's too much, right? Then that's okay. Then that's better. That's closer to what the Tao is, okay? So, and then there's no attempt to create a debt, a karmic debt or reward. No one owes you anything for being. Remember, the natural way of Tao means no. That means you have non-conditioned mind. You give because, I want to, appear. I want to show that, flaunt or show that, hey, I'm very generous. See, then that means you have a condition, right? You have your way, right? That means you have a condition. okay, you have an agenda, a contrivance, an intention, right? Then that means you're going to create karmic reward, in this case, if you're giving, okay, or karmic debt if it's something else, right? So that's why we have to be careful, right? And lastly, no contrivance, that's no intention to be visible, seeking recognition, or invisible, be anonymous. See, we shouldn't do that. We should say, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to show off, so therefore I'll be anonymous. See, then that's an intention. That's also intention. Your intention may be good, may be noble in the sense that you don't want to show off, but it's an intent. Okay, so we have to be mindful. You want to do naturally, just like the rain falls. The rain doesn't fall. Say, oh, I want to help these, this drought area, so I'll put more rain here. No, then that has intent, right? Doesn't do that. So sages give without any need to draw attention, neither the need to give by sneaking around, nor the need to have the spotlight. So we have to do it naturally, right? So that's very important. All right, these are okay. All right, so the last phrase is, sages do not want to be seen as virtuous. They do, but it does not mean, now some people translate, does not mean sages do not want to see the virtuous. Some people translate, and this they say they do not they do not want to see the virtuous. I mean, that's one literal translation. Okay, they do not wish to see the virtuous. Yeah, that's you can say that's the literal. But in this case, this word does not mean to see. It means display, to show off. Okay, so that's the difference right there. Okay, all right, okay, all right. Or the worthy, to not see the worthy. That's people translate this last word as worthy. I mean, it's just not wrong. But in this case, it's not to display the worthiness. It's display the virtue. Okay, all right, okay, all right. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So another meaning is that sages do not wish to have their virtues on display for everyone to see. So, that's okay. Yeah, be on the spotlight. See, sages do not seek the spotlight. Okay. All right. Just like our Buddha nature does not seek the spotlight. Buddha nature just does its things naturally, right? It's naturally compassionate, but not because it's seeking the spotlight. Okay, no, it's just naturally so. All right, same idea. All right, okay. And same thing. So in this, I didn't put it here because I didn't want to have too many pages, but in this case, right? So you can use this as our Buddha nature. Okay, Buddha nature act, but without conceit. Yeah, because it has no ego. Buddha nature achieves, but do not dwell on it. Okay, it does not. It's non-conditioned, right? So it doesn't dwell on anything. There's no ego to it. And sages, the Buddha nature, right, does not display their virtue. They do things naturally. That's why, am I getting ahead of myself? No. Okay, that's why the highest virtue is not virtue, right? Okay, that's the idea. All right, okay, all right. Because the Buddha nature does not consider it to be a virtue. It just naturally is. Okay, all right. Okay. So sages, sorry. Okay, here. Third phrase is attention. Why? So why do sages do not wish? Why sages do not wish to have their virtue on display for everyone? Okay, because those who wish to be seen as virtuous possess only the illusion of virtue. So that's why it's not virtue, okay? They try to display this illusion everywhere to everyone. That's called virtue signaling. That's what we use in modern day contemporary language, right? It's called virtue signaling, right? Okay, so sages have no ego and they follow the way of nature. They have no need to virtue signal, right? Okay, so you can say our Buddha nature has no ego, right? They have no ego, no I. And so therefore, whatever the Buddha nature does, it just follows the nature. So it does, so Buddha nature, whatever the manifestation from Buddha nature, they don't consider it as virtue. Get it? Okay, so that's very important. That's very high level, all right? Okay, because if you consider it as a virtue, then you are really virtue signaling, okay? You say, oh, because this is virtuous. So therefore, no, Buddha nature doesn't do that. It just automatically does it, okay? Without a need to justify it, all right? Because it's not naturally. That's the Tao, okay? That's how the Tao. Okay, now there are two cautions about giving, right? Okay, so the first one is, it is great to be compassionate, but not so great when you have to choose the recipient. This is not the Tao. It would be better if you can work to the benefit of all without picking and choosing a spec. See, so that's very important. Okay, now we have some websites. I don't know if you've heard. I mean, it used to be, I don't know how, certain websites that, they say, oh, you sponsor a child, right? You can sponsor a child in some, poor country, I mean, it's still better than nothing. I agree. It's still better than nothing. I'm not condemning that. Okay, I'm just saying, if you want to be at the highest level of understanding of what Lao Tzu is saying, what the Tao is, the Tao principle is, that it's better to give, to help the child, but you don't, if you have to pick and choose, then that's, well, number one, you're creating karma. You're going to create karma, okay? And that means because you already have an intention, attention or an agenda, okay? Because then you're saying, oh, I'm picking this specific child. They have these websites, that, right? That they have like poor children that you can adopt the child. I mean, not adopt physically, but adopt by sponsoring. I think they call sponsoring a child or something like that. And then they have website pages of all these portraits, backgrounds of all these different children, pictures of them, and it's very heartbreaking. It's extremely. I looked at it, I get depressed because I get heartbreaking. I say, is it that certain child among this group, let's say there's a group of, I don't know, a dozen, probably there are hundreds, thousands, maybe millions, I don't know. But, and it just so happens if their picture or the description happens to be just perfect, or just the description just right, that it evokes that compassion from a specific individual to want to sponsor that particular child over the others. That's a difficult choice. Okay, now you can say, oh, that's karma, that maybe, this child was, I don't know, was a previous benefactor of you, many lifetimes ago. So therefore, in this lifetime, you want to pay back, you give to that particular child. It's hard to say, right? Karma works in mysterious ways. But if you end up in that situation, what's going to happen is you can call it karma, fine. But then that means you're just perpetuating that karmic cycle. The key is you want to break that karmic cycle, that karmic tie, that karmic bind, okay, that karmic chain. So it's better to work to the benefit of all. That's right. I'm not saying, don't give to these charities. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that a better way, another way, more positive way, or more, I don't know, overall satisfactory way, or, that will benefit more, than one specific individual, is to try to find a way to support as many as you can. That's all I can say. All right. Okay. So 2 is when you incur a specific, okay, so that's the key. Okay. When you incur a specific karmic debt, a special karma, you also create an obligation for that debt to be repaid. So even if you do not want it to be repaid. So that's the key, right? So that's why that's why our giving, or our, you can say, should be non-conditioned as much as possible. Because once it's conditioned, then this is what's going to happen. Okay. You're going to incur, in this case, a karmic reward, And also karmic reward is limited, and also has limitations. But the point is, you don't break you end up not breaking the chains of karma. The key is you want to break the chains of karma. Okay. All right. So that's why it's so important that giving without contrivance or agenda, which is wu wei, so important. That's the wu wei. Those who possess true virtue are not mindful of being virtuous. That's important. All right. So that's very important. Okay. So, we had this in chapter 38, right? They are virtuous without thinking about how virtuous they are, right? High virtue is not virtue, therefore it has virtue. Okay. Let's go to the last summary. Oh, I'm almost the 90-minute mark. Okay. So is this the right one? Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Some more ideas. Now there's some non-material forms of giving. Okay. I'm not talking about just material. Okay. You smile. That doesn't cost you anything, right? An open expression of. Now, this is not extensive. This is not all inclusive. There's more. Okay, you can add more. Forgiveness is another one, right? There's no need to carry anger or regret. Blessing, you always wish people the best. Smooth sailing, good fortune, safety, etc., etc. Okay, and also encouragement. Always give moral support. You know, you can say moral support, a shoulder to cry on, or whatever. Okay, now they're on the right track, right? Let people know when they're on the right track. Praise, motivate, inspire. Okay, you can say, you know, emotional support. You can say listening, you know, take the time to listen to people's, you know, people's opinions, people's gripes. Okay. Providing a shoulder for them, you know, to cry on, you know, moral support, all this. Okay, there's more. You can add more, but these are just non-material forms. Okay, all right. So, I'm almost near the conclusion, so bear with. All right. Okay. So here's the key. Okay, the most important thing for Tao cultivators is to be true to yourselves, to themselves. That's why, you know, to be like sages, okay, to be true to your true self, which is to be true to our Buddha nature, to be in accord with our Buddha nature. Okay, all right. The image that the Tao cultivates project and how other people think of them are not as important anymore. Okay, so because that's all very superficial. Okay, and that also has, you know, it's conditioned, right? It has conditions. Okay, by being true to themselves is to follow the Tao naturally. So by being true to our Buddha nature, you're following the Tao nature because the Tao naturally, because the Buddha nature is in accord with the Tao naturally, right? Okay, it's at one with the Tao naturally. So without contrivance or agenda, once this happens, your compassion, kindness, goodness will naturally manifest, and people will naturally be attracted to you, have positive opinions of you, etc. So if you want to project an image, I'm gonna say if you have a goal, right, like a goal, and that, oh, you know, you want people to think better of you, have a better opinion of you. Well, you don't do it with the contrivance, but rather to say, hey, the best way is to follow the Tao naturally, to be closer to that one, to be in accord with your Buddha nature. That's the highest. That's the best. That's the greatest level. That will not create karma. That will not create karma. Okay. All right. Okay. And that way people will naturally have a positive opinion of you. Okay. So that's all. Okay. So at the external level, okay, where only those who possess the Tao, that's to know, understand, and practice the Tao, can offer their excess to the world. They are like sages who act naturally like the Tao because it is the natural way, where they act without conceit, arrogance, okay, achieve accomplishments without claiming credit, and have no desire to display their virtues. So internally, this is because the Buddha nature, essence, that's the sage, has no ego, and is naturally non-conditioned because it has no, it does this unconditionally. It does it naturally, where those who possess the Tao follow a balancing mechanism as in nature. This connects to the first line, where the Tao of Heaven is like drawing a bow, where that which is high, it is lower, that which is low, it is raised, that which has excess is reduced, that which is lacking is added. Where this drawing of the bow, the pulling of the bowstring, is a metaphor for the Tao of moderation in reaching a goal in life. That is, the aiming at a target of drawing the bow is to set the goals in life, setting goals in life. Not too high, not too low. The pulling of the bowstring, that is the preparation, planning, effort, etc. Okay, it's not too strong, not too weak. So that's the moderation, right? Okay, so where this Tao of Heaven reduces whatever is too much and adds to that which is insufficient. This is the natural balancing mechanism of nature, where everything in the world is constantly moving toward equilibrium, while the way of humanity is the opposite to the balancing principle of Tao, which reduces that which is already lacking and gives to that which already has too much, where by following and practicing the Tao and not following the herd, whenever we have too much of anything. Wait a minute, did I miss something? Okay, no, we didn't. Okay, where, let's see, we can offer the excess to, okay, where we can offer the excess to those who do not have enough. This way, we give in the same way that nature does, without arrogance, without claiming credit, and without the need to show off. This is how those who have the Tao live a life of moderation. It is a life of a natural balance. This life of balance is like drawing a bow. This life of balance is the heavenly Tao. Okay, I think I'm done. Okay, I think that's it. I conclude. Let's see. Yes, okay, sorry. Oh, I missed this part. Sorry. Oh, I missed this. Additional idea. Okay, not to, there's this, what's the Tao of giving? I'm sorry, the Tao of giving, that's in summary 2. That means you give without claiming credit, without boasting, flaunting, okay, without seeking recognition, without ego, giving with no strings attached, without conditions, expectations, or recognition, part of the concept of non-attachment or non-attached action. Okay, so giving what you can comfortably give without damaging your ability to continue giving. There's an idiom, right? A small stream will continue to flow indefinitely. That's 细水长流. Go about it little by little without. Oh yeah, that's why I thought I missed something. Okay, story to old master. You know what? Because I'm already over time. I can't give the story, but you can look it up. There's it's a well-known story. I think they use this a lot in Zen, but anyway, giving without having to choose the recipient. This is the way of nature of the Tao. Okay, so that's all right. So I'm sorry, I forgot this. There's a part 3 to this. Okay, I forgot it. All right. Anyway, okay. So this goes to sorry. This pertains to this summary here. I'm talking about giving to others. It's all about moderation. It's about this part. All right. It's about this part. Okay. So it's about this section. Okay. This is about who can give the excess. Okay. Offer. All right. So it's all right. Sorry. All right. Okay. I already had too much. It's already 90 minutes. So here I conclude. Okay. So if I said anything wrong or incorrectly, I ask for the Buddha's and Lao Tzu's guidance and everybody's guidance. Okay. Thank you.